2:12 a.m. The radar lights up. 200 hostile craft, closing on a U.S.-flagged freighter loaded with $4.8 billion in microchips. At 2:42 a.m., the intercept order drops. You have 29 minutes to stop a theft that could drag global electronics and erase 0.2% of U.S. GDP. What wins in that window? Precision missiles, naval guns, or sensors that see everything? Stay with me, we'll break down the first salvos, the targeting chain from a P-8A Poseidon, and the moment the ocean, filled with fuel and fire, becomes part of the fight. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. Costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video.
A pirate boat tries to board the vessel. And that's the response from the private security on board. But there's a second pirate boat.
It's all the way out! All the way out!
What actually buys survival in 29 minutes? Long-range missiles, big guns, or a sensor net that predicts movement? The board is set far off the coast, in black water. MV Argentum runs heavy with microchips and fuel, 240 nautical miles out. A criminal syndicate floods the approaches with bodies and boats, around 200 militants packing RPGs, DSHKs, and outboards tuned to sprint. Swell sits at a rough chop, enough to bounce, aim, and throw spray over barrels. Deck tanks sweat fumes. Darkness hides intent and highlights muzzle flash. One bad spark kisses a slick and turns the waterline into a wick.
But there's a second pirate boat.
It's all the way out! All the way out!
It perhaps wisely decides to disengage.
Command faces a choice problem. Fire early, spike the lead boats, and risk lighting the sea if a warhead clips a drum. Or hold fire to get a cleaner picture, buy another minute of track quality, and risk a swarm collapsing from 3 axes at once. Every minute changes angles. Intercept points shift. Missile flight times stretch or shrink. Gun arcs open, then close as hulls cross bearings. Delay helps targeting but hands momentum to the mass. The targeting chain starts wide. P-8A Poseidon rides the edge of the plot, sweeping with surface search radar and staring with infrared. It stitches wakes, heat blooms, and muzzle sparks into a single map. Meanwhile, USS Archer turns that map into firing solutions, sorting tracks by speed, density, and approach vector. Down low and quiet, a fast attack sub eases into the back door to cut off any breakouts. Air, surface, subsurface, 3 domains, 1 clock. You need the net before you throw the punch. Tools matter because each punishes a different behavior. LRASM reaches far and picks its targets. Cuts leaders and command boats at ranges where small arms can't talk back. The 5-inch gun trades precision for volume, throwing airburst and proximity fuses to shred clusters and blind gunners.
Again, telling the Houthis, quote, that they will bear the responsibility for the consequences should they continue to threaten lives in the region's critical waterways. So what more will result besides these words? We're not sure. We know 18 drones, 2 cruise missiles, and 1 ballistic missile. There was no reported damage or injuries.
An MH-60R leaks off the deck, working close with rockets and a door gun, fast enough to chase sprinters and low enough to count faces. Massing, you eat a standoff missile. Sprinting, the helo angles in and clips your throttle. Hiding behind wakes, the gun walks rounds through the chop. At 3:08 a.m., the first salvos land. 1 strike tags a center boat stacked with jerrycans. Flames jump, then run. The shock wave knocks the nearest hull sideways. Gunners lose their stance, and formations tear as drivers swerve, half to avoid fire, half because their night vision is gone. For 30 seconds, the timing window breaks. Sprint lanes go crooked. Boats that should hit together arrive alone. That gap is oxygen. Layered defense doctrine turns the sea into a funnel. You don't duel every hull. You collapse choices. Kill the front wave to remove leadership and spotting. Jam and distract the middle with volume so their shooters point at the wrong threat. Hold a blocker to trap the few who bet on speed and luck.
From Yemen toward international shipping lanes as dozens of merchant ships were traversing through the southern Red Sea. It's 20 nations as participants led by the U.S. that was formed back in December in response to this regional escalation. This happens, and even as Blinken's presence is there in the Middle East, which makes this attack.
A swarm wants sideways options. A layer cake takes those away until all that's left is straight ahead, which is where your guns already point. The human edge keeps all of it from tipping into chaos. On the freighter, the crew sets fire boundaries. Valves shut, foam stations manned, hot work locked out. Hose teams staggered so one spark doesn't become a chain fire. On Archer, the gun crew runs a blistering cadence. Feed, fire, correct, while the combat team updates bearings every few seconds. In the Hello, the crew chief calls wind and drift, keeps the pilot honest on altitude, and holds a tight leash on rockets near fuel. It's not heroics. It's trained habit under a hard clock. The first 10 minutes after intercept decide the fight. 17 boats end up dead in the water or burning. More try to peel off, but the formation is split and the tempo is gone. The freighter stays afloat, still hot but under control, with deck teams rolling foam like a metronome. The net from sensor to shooter holds. Not pretty, efficient. And now the job changes. The swarm is a symptom. The network that armed, fueled, and cued them is the disease. The mission flips from one hull to the web behind it. Cache sites, launch coves, relay craft, and the money lines that keep gas in cans and guns on rails. The fastest weapon wasn't metal. It was the targeting chain that turned chaos into a kill box and kept a $4.8 billion cargo from becoming a global choke point. Sensors bought time. Time bought angles. Angles bought hits. So what would you choose in that window, missiles, guns, or sensors?
What response has there been from the U.S. to this? Well, a repetition. In fact, they quoted a previous statement. U.S. and U.K. fighter jets responded, according to the Pentagon, and they worked in tandem, shooting down 8 that have continued, as we've seen this now to be the 26th such attack since November 19th.
Yeah, and the launch.
Comment your choice below. If you want more hard, tactics-first breakdowns, subscribe. We build decisions under a clock. Freedom of navigation lives or dies on minutes like these. Next time, we test this timing against a shoreline fortress. Radars on cliffs, missiles in revetments, and shallow water that steals your buffer while the clock keeps running.